time for this. This morning, Scott Hickman and David Hayes and Shay Kirkman are presenting again. If you were here about 2 months ago, they gave an incredible update. They're giving an update again. So I'm going to turn it over to our senior warden, Scott Hickman, and then after him, our treasurer, David Hayes, is going to go. And then Shay Kirkman is the head of our chair of our expansion committee. So turn it over to Scott. These guys are absolute rock stars. We are in great hands and very, very grateful for all their work. So if you want to advance, that's this one right here. Thank you all very much.
Again, my name is Scott Hickman. I have the very great privilege to serve as senior warden this year. I want to thank everybody who's been involved. Everyone probably in this room has been involved in some way, if not directly involved, by pledging donations, pledging money towards the whole project. So thank you all so much for everything that y'all do for the parish. We have some exciting updates. And so we're going to give you a short timeline for the next couple of months or so, kind of what's going to be happening with the expansion. But I'd like to open this up with a word of prayer before I pass it along to David. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessing our St. Lawrence family. We come to you with grateful hearts, asking for your guidance in all of the details of this capital campaign. Remind us to seek you first before every decision is made. Give us a spirit of unity and generous hearts. Direct us to build up your church, stay rooted in truth. Expand these walls so that they may honor you. Bring others to know you and love you. We ask these things in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thanks.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. How are you? All right, so we started with $447,000. We raised $4.2 million. We got a great FEMA grant, $150. Interest income of about $40 grand, and we got a bequest for $1.6 million roughly. So all in, we have about $6.5 million put towards this beautiful new building that we have. Now, when we talked earlier about the cost of the project, we selected a contractor, we went back to that contractor, we talked to them for a while, we did some value engineering, we looked at a lot of different things, and we ended up at about $6.5 million, $6.6 million for the new building. Now we've got some additional costs over and above just the physical structure that we had to consider, and that's about $300,000. And then, as always, you build in a contingency to whatever your plan is. So we built in a contingency of about $150,000 for any unforeseen items. Now, when you build a building, you got to borrow money. So we borrow money, we got to pay interest on that money that we borrow. So we have about $360,000 worth of interest that we've roughly calculated. Okay. Now I'm going to pause for a second. To get all of these numbers, we have a group of people that worked on this. Right? We've got Donnie Hatcher, Walter Copeland, Les Meisel, Frank Wagner. A lot of people looked at all of this stuff, figured out how do we do this? How do we pay for what we need to pay for? And there was a lot of spreadsheets. There was a lot of conversation. There was a lot of meetings on this, and we ended up in a really good spot. So by the way, bridges, 636. Both bridges. Yay! So $8 million is what we're looking at total for the investment into this. So what did we do next? Well, we bid this out to several banks. We talked about 3 different banks. We went through the process. We started with 7. We ended up getting it down to 3. The finance committee was brought together. We reviewed the information we had from the 3 banks finance committee. And then we went to the vestry and asked for approval. Some of the key metrics that we were looking at. Most of you are aware that we have a current debt for the transepts. If we went with a different bank other than who we currently bank with, we would have had to either roll that into the note or pay it off. And that's about $360,000. So that was a big motivating factor for us. Which bank was going to give us the greatest flexibility? And we're really pleased Frost is working with us. Frost is not making us pay that off. They're letting us carry that until we refinance the long-term debt on the new building plus whatever is remaining on the transfers. They also offered the lowest origination fee. They were the most competitive on the interest rate. So really the Lord was looking out for us as we went through this entire process. And so Frost Bank was the one that we elected to move forward with. And so now we're in the process of completing all the T's and C's and getting everything signed and ready to go. So we're extremely pleased with that. I think I'm gonna pass this on to Shay.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. So does anybody remember what I joked my nickname was last time? Bad news guy? So I've got kind of a reality check. I'm not a bad news guy today, but we're going to kind of go through some of the specifics of the construction contract. October 29th, we did execute the contract for that $6.58 million. Just to let everybody know, we delayed it a few weeks. We wanted to go through a very thorough legal review, and so we had an attorney, basically a parishioner volunteer to provide some excellent review, and then we hired a third-party contract attorney that I've worked with in the past that's really good and also provided some great input, and so we feel like we ended up with a very thorough and balanced contract and a great review. So in the end, we are happy with the contract. I think it's extremely fair. We did add in some protections for the church, protections specifically related to if this takes longer than you say it's going to take, you're going to start paying us money. And so we've got what's called liquidated damages added into the contract. It is essentially a guaranteed box price contract. So that number, we've done everything we can to secure the ceiling of what that number will be. So at this point, the way it's set up, the number would change essentially if we change it, if we change the scope. So we've got quite a bit of control here on this contract. Now, you heard earlier, the new bridges are in, so that is awesome. Just so everybody knows, and this may be hard to see. If it is, come ask me after and I'll show you kind of where it is. But if you're looking at this aerial exhibit, this is our sanctuary right here. And then music building is right here. And so this will be basically the piece of this building that we're opening up, calling atrium. This will be your parish hall. Excuse me. So we've got a pedestrian bridge proposed right over the creek back here. And there's some reasons to this location. That's some of you are curious, I'll tell you all about it. And then this is the back vehicle bridge that will connect back to the rear parking lots. So this will give us access all the way around the property. And if anybody's been here on the backside of the creek after a big rain, you have to wait for a while. Last week, that's right. Last week it happened. This new bridge will be built higher. It will be a full-size bridge, so there will be always access across the river when it's a river. So we're really excited about that. It's also building such a substantial structure and the road. Well, we were estimating $500,000 to $600,000 for that. Sure enough, it came in right at $636. So concrete, steel, very expensive, especially structural like that. So it is expensive, but we're so thankful that it's included. So it'll provide great connectivity for the property. Construction timeline. This is the little bit of bad news I've got to drop on everybody. Pre-construction phase, basically what we've already done, as you can see, the new playground, the temporary playground looks amazing. We're able to kind of reroute some drainage and get that looking really, really good. So that is open. We've got early construction activity that will include site prep stuff, but we were actually going to start that this week. We put it on hold. We're working with Frost to make sure there's some stipulations to make sure the loan gets closed, the title gets run. There's some bank stuff that means we've got to pause for a little bit. So we're ready. We're teed up, which is the great news. We've got subcontractors really ready to mobilize within days. But we do need to hold to make sure the closing of the loan with Frost goes smooth. And so that's It's real important, so nobody be mad at Frost, but we wanna make sure we get everything done right on the bank side. So here's what we're looking at, mid-December, instead of mid-November is kind of when we're really gonna see some activity. But here's what we're gonna see. Erosion control, so you're gonna see a lot of silt fence installed all around the property. That's to keep sediment and dirt inside the project as much as possible. You're gonna see some temporary fence, construction fencing. We'll go into that in a minute. That'll kind of show you the limits of where the site construction project will be. Site prep, so you're gonna have a construction entrance. You're gonna see a lot of stuff over there. A bunch of rocks being dropped off, some concrete's gonna be removed. Essentially, that's to prepare for the heavy equipment coming in. So, if you have any questions, we've got a little process we'll set up to ask us. The property prep will also have the stakes, the heavy equipment, but also some materials. We're not gonna have just a ton of materials right now, but you'll start seeing more and more over the next few months, the materials show up. So late December, we're gonna be losing some trees. So I just wanna prepare everyone, because this is always an emotional moment during construction. As much as I love the trees we have, we did what we could to save the trees. There are some that were just in the exact spot we had to put the building. If you recall, going back for years, we really tried to position the building to honor the property. We were not just loosey-goosey with where everything goes, blitz all the trees. We weren't like that at all. Even if we were, South Lake won't let you do that. South Lake is very picky about the trees you picked up. So, for example, we negotiated the trees to be removed 8 years ago. They still have that document that came up this past week. So they're very serious about the trees, but we will be knocking some trees down. Some beautiful trees are gonna come down, so just prepare yourself. Mother's Day tree right here, we're gonna add some extra protection around that, and so you'll probably see, that's why you'll see some stuff over here instead of all of it over there. Dirt work, so it's really gonna look messy. You know, they're gonna be bringing in dirt, it's not gonna be overly dusty, we'll keep the dust down, but it's gonna kind of look like some bombs went off for a while, and that's actually productive. So during dirt work, kind of messier it looks at first, the better it is. So that's good news. It'll start to get a little bit cleaner and smoother after the first few lifts or past the dirt. In January, here's what to expect. Grading. That's when a lot of dirt work's gonna be going on. You're gonna hear a lot of beeping as vehicles back up. You're gonna hear, dump trucks come in and dump dirt and leave. And so it's gonna be a lot of playing in the dirt. Kids will love it. I can't go over there, kids will love it. We'll also get some utility work started. We don't have a ton of utility work, but we will have, there's probably half a dozen trenches that we're gonna be cutting. And so some of it will be a little bit on this side, most of it's gonna be on that side. But the way utility work happens is when you see some protective barriers and fences around trenches, stay away from them because you could get hurt. Here. Okay, overall construction timeline reminders. We talked about this last time, but we're anticipating 12 to 16 months. We're going to hold RJ Miller to their time frame, which is within that. Obviously, the major variable is weather. So if you think real quick, we're starting December now. Puts us to the spring rains, hopefully after dirt, hopefully after we're going to try to make as much progress before the spring rains happen. But we are going to start on the new Parish Hall building first. This will still be operational until May. This building right here, in May, we shut it down and give it to the contractors. And this might be another emotional moment for a lot of y'all that have been here for a long time. This building is getting gutted. So if you need to say your goodbyes, make sure it happens. So I'm just trying to be sensitive here. We do have basically this May October time frame. That's not under contract with RJ Miller, but they have committed to meet that deadline to get this building complete, the work done in this parish hall complete by October of 25. So, as you're saying, hundreds of prayers about this project. please add that one to the list. We want to make sure this building does get done by October, because there's so many ministries that need this building. Goals to be back, remodel current parish hall in April 25. Best case scenario, everything's done by Easter 26. So on your expansion prayer list, that's another biggie. What an amazing celebration that would be. So, okay, when construction begins. This is going to be, I know this is common sense, y'all, but this is where I start getting really worried. Perimeter fence is going to be up, temporary fence. You're going to notice some obvious barriers. Please, for your own safety, church's liability, stay out of the way. Stay out of that area. I know it's kind of, like I said, it's pretty simple, but it's so hard to resist the temptation to go peek around the fence or just go take a walk. Kids, they're going to want to go over there, so keep an eye on kids. We're going to try to do some extra barriers and some extra signage, but I know my kids, when they were little, nothing would stop them from getting into a construction zone. The coolest thing, including getting on the roof, which is really good. We also want to make sure the crews, once they're here, they're not distracted by people coming on site. You know, the less we bother them, the faster and more efficient they work. We do want your feedback though, so we're not saying once we start, leave us alone and just let it happen and all that. So Carl Opiska, I don't know if Carl, I saw Carl in church, I don't know if he's here right now. There he is, raise your hand tall, Carl, you can't hide like that. So Carl, who raised his hand like the shortest possible raise. We've got a huge blessings and thank you to Carl, because Carl's going to be our boots on the ground. He is our owner's rep during construction every day out here. So he's going to be having daily conversations with the contractors. Obviously, I'm going to be here and help kind of oversee a lot of what's going on between the different pieces. And then vestry members at the table. So y'all, I can't imagine anybody missed it, but right as you walk in, questions about the expansion table is going to be up and running on Sundays. And obviously, our staff, feel free to ask them questions. But we would like to hear from you. If you've got a concern or a question, come to us. Construction crews are going to be meeting with us daily. If you do have something you want to tell them, tell us. And then we're going to document it and have a conversation with them. And this is really, it's not, again, we don't want to restrict conversations with everybody, but we kind of want to restrict conversations with the subcontractors because they may not know the whole story or why we're doing certain things. So I have personally had experience where someone didn't mean to, but they went and asked a contractor a question. It was a sub who didn't know, and he said, oh, let me check, let me put that work on hold, and they lost weeks because someone asked a question that really wasn't relevant to what was going on, and it was just a big confusion, and so that's painful. So when you saw that, going back about 7 slides, when you saw the interest that we're paying, the 2 weeks on that interest meter is super expensive, so you could accidentally, cost the church $5,000-$10,000 in interest just to chase a question down for a week. So please funnel the questions to us. Leave the construction workers alone. Let them do their job. But we do want to log it, address it within 24 hours. We are going to have, we're already setting up some initial communication strategies so that we make sure issues get logged and addressed quickly. So that's what we're doing. And then don't go talk. Yeah, that's okay. So I think I covered this. Okay, I think that's it for me for now. So do I have questions for all of us? It doesn't have to just be me.
Yes, Jay. So once the construction starts, are we down to that entry and then this one is going to be shut down?
That's correct, but we're right now working on the exact dates of when that entry and this parking lot will be shut down. So we're going to try to see if we can buy a little bit of time, but if RJ Miller says it jeopardizes the timeline, we're going to give it up. And so we're going to prioritize, and they know that, they know we're going to prioritize the timeline. So we don't know yet exactly when that's shutting down. They're looking at that this week. Great question.
So what's the deal on parking in general? Is it going to change from time to time, or is there a plan on once this starts, we have a designated place to park?
let me go to this map. So parking, this is gonna be a request for patience again, because parking will be more challenging. Thank God we've got a golf cart crew, because they're gonna be busy. We're gonna have to use this a lot more. This is the back parking lot that I'm pointing at. So essentially, this is the driveway that's gonna get shut down at some point, and this whole parking lot will be closed, demolished, and not being able to be used. So, this is all we've got for now. We are currently not planning temporary parking spaces for cost purposes, like we're not adding asphalt somewhere just to add spaces. We're hoping, and we're gonna kind of play this by ear, to see if these parking areas, and then this back parking area, and then obviously we've overflowed into the grass before, if that is sufficient. So that's gonna be, when this gets shut down and demoed, that's gonna put the most strain on the parking condition, and primarily during Sundays, but certainly during some other events.
At 4 o'clock, we're getting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so, we are adding a new parking lot bigger than the one that we are taking out right up here on the north end of the new parish hall that will, basically, we're adding this new drive. So at the end of the day, we'll still have 2 drives. It's just, we're moving from the current to the far north of the property, and that allows us to line it up all the way with the loop. So it'll come back around. So right there.
Okay.
So we'll have a loop site, we'll have a brand new parking lot with more spaces right next to the new parish hall building.
Answer.
I know you're talking about construction and everything. On the daily life of our church, has someone done a timeline on what we'll be able to do within our confined areas?
Has someone done a timeline on what we, so yeah, I know.
So like St. Lawrence Day, we are, you know, I'm assuming it'll be out in the prairie or something.
Prairie. Hey, someone just coined a new name for the prairie. All right. Yeah, so I know that Father Jordan's been working, there are plans for the events that are somewhat alternate plans, but I know that's in the works. I don't know all the specifics, because I don't know if it's all figured out yet, but I believe the church and the staff are working on the alternate plans for each event.
Yeah, we started talking about in the staff meeting, developing a timeline of when events will occur with construction and how they will impact parish events. Our commitment is we want to keep things going. It may look different, it may feel different, because we won't for several months have this building and losing part of the property and a construction fence. But our goal is to keep all parish activities going. We've already game planned how to do VBS in limited spaces, things like that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
So when will the new bridge be built, and is the old bridge going to be torn down?
Good question. The new bridge will be built during this overall project, so within that same time frame. So by Easter 26, it'll be done. It'll probably be done before that, because we'll do the on-site civil work, so paving, grading, drainage, utilities. We'll be getting most of that done earlier in the process, while the building's going vertical and then the building work is being done. So technically, we could have, it's likely the bridge and the driveway to the back here. Right there, tiny. Technically, all that's gonna be done, excuse me, before the building will be done. It won't be open, because we're still working on it. We're still trying to get our approvals from the city. So conservatively, I would say, time it with Easter 26 with the completion of the project. We might be able to get a little bit sooner, but we'll have to wait and see. The existing bridge is going to remain. We did some construction work last year, 23, 2 years ago, to structurally reinforce it. There's right now, and it's the way it's designed, it's actually intentionally allows water over the top. It's called a low water crossing. That's what it always was intended to do. So that functionality is going to remain. We're not going to raise or rebuild that bridge. Now, a future expansion plan may include, we have talked about that, But we just, on the priority list, getting the new bridge, leaving the old bridge so that we had the loop, ended up being a higher priority. But one day, I can see that bridge being replaced by a bridge similar to what we're putting in on the north side. Yes, sir.
And who is doing all this civil bridge work and all that?
So RJ Miller will also be doing that. They originally did not bid on it because we had added it as an option. Then they came back and bid on it, and they have crews that do that, so they're qualified to do that. And we knew that going in, that's why we were kind of waiting to get that done. Yeah. Any other questions?
I got a treasury, I guess, question. So is that 7.5% interest rate?
Yes.
Is that fixed for the life of the loan, or is it a floater, or? what?
No, it's adjustable.
It's adjustable?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is potential.
Right.
To go down, okay.
So keep praying that things go down. We like that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And not a.
No, yeah, very, very, very true. But we're in a good spot. And last time when I spoke to you guys, I asked people to think about it, to pray about it, figure out whether you can pull your money forward at all to help us. Many of you responded, so thank you. I ask you guys to continue to pray about that. The more cash we have up front, the less interest expense we're going to have. And Frost was very excited to see the fact that we did have several parishioners step forward and provide funds earlier in the process. That helped us actually get to the final number, and it helped us include the bridge. So for those of you that have done that, your generosity is greatly appreciated. That's in that. So continue to pray about it. I know that the economy is challenging. I'm in that boat, tuition and et cetera. So, but if you can, it does tremendously help us keep that 360,000 in check. We'd like that number to be less, okay, overall.
David, when did we start paying bills in currency?
So Frost is going to ask us to put our cash up first. All right, so we're going to start spending a portion of that. We're working with them to figure out whether or not we can keep some of it back for at the end of the loans and figuring it all out. But from my understanding, and Les, help me out here, at the end of, our goal is to spend the money that we have for the project into the final number, okay? So that we're financing the least amount of money on the go forward, okay, when we have to roll it in with the transept debt. We also want to take advantage of the fact that Donnie and Walter have invested that money really well, so we're earning a lot of interest dollars on what we have, and so it's a delicate balance that's going to be required for the process. But Frost will require us to put up some money first before we start drawing on it. It's in our best interest to spend our cash up front so that we're not earning interest on the money that we're borrowing. So again, Walter has a very complicated spreadsheet. I'm not so sure I understand all of the squares. To be honest with you, it's kind of color coded. You know, I was a paint by number kid. But it was, all in all, he has sort of figured out this flow of what should be in the best interest for St. Lawrence.
So we should see you writing checks when we see people out here running around.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and then within that process, we've created a process that's extremely transparent for the parish. So Carl and Shay will get the bills, they'll look at it, they'll check it off, they'll make sure, because I don't know anything about construction, right? I'm just good at putting my name on things. So at that point, it will come to Les and I. Les and I will look at it and then start signing money out. And then every month when we meet with the vestry, we will have line items for the building fund that is, we spent money towards construction, we spend money towards materials, we spend money towards, contractor fees, et cetera. All that will be lined out on the sheet. And then at the annual meeting, all of you will get to see that as well. And at any time, you can ask us or any vestry member to supply you with that information. Okay?
How many years is the loan, and then what's the plan after the project is complete to maybe try to accelerate? Is there a plan to accelerate it or pay off?
So let me clarify, the payoff for the current one or the new one moving forward? So the plan going forward is in 2027, when we roll the transept and the new building all together, all right? What we've asked initially for is the banks to tell us what would that look like. So we're looking at a 25-year amortization over 10 years. And then obviously we get to the end of that 10-year period, we'll take a look at where interest rates are, et cetera, we'll refinance and move forward. So ideally, we would like to pay it off as quickly as possible, but I think it's too far out for me to give you a good indication of where that is. Did I say that correctly? You have to check it, see? It's a teamwork event here. Any other questions?
So when you come back into the parish hall, it's not gonna be a parish hall anymore, right? It's gonna be the view over there, or is it gonna be partially done so we can use it as a parish hall and then modified again to become a nursery?
I'm gonna pass that.
I know, I'm one of you, yeah, just wondering.
Just so happen to have a board.
Here, I'll hold the board and you can point. How's that sound?
It's like a stage question.
I'll be your man.
I'll be here.
So if Vanna can hold it higher, that'd be a lot easier. Okay,
Always a critic.
you got it upside down. Wait, close. I can't help it. Sorry, I was kidding. Look at that.
I feel like that guy on the street.
All right, I'm gonna pay for that later, I'm sure. So this is the parish hall we're sitting in now. So we kind of dubbed it the atrium, mainly because it's got this large clear storage space. But to your question, this becomes, so the atrium area is, I don't know if you want the pictures, it's not important. Okay. That back corner, there's no way I'm gonna try to laser point it. That is it's a gathering space, it's a passing space, it's really kind of meant to be open, fairly clear of obstruction. That's where you'll be able to check your kiddos in to the nursery and infant care. So the building atrium will divide the building or split it into two secure sections. So we'll call it east and west. So west right here, east right here. The east section, so that section, after you go through, we've got secure doors here. Well, hold on, prior to the secure doors, we have a little kitchenette, a little coffee station, a little kind of mini kitchen. We've got a janitor closet, some storage, men's and women's restrooms, accessible from the atrium, so that's not behind the secure doors when they're locked. And then in here, we've got a children's chapel space, 3 classrooms, and an additional classroom / children's flex space. So as y'all have been hearing about the Sunday school and the youth teaching these days, it's not as much segmented. And the teachers are laughing at me right now the way I'm describing it, but a lot more collaborative, a lot more brought together, a lot more flexibility needed. So we added a significant space for that and some storage, and then a separate restroom behind the secure doors. These are the secure doors on the east side. On the west side, we've got basically infant care, nursery, and then age-appropriate restrooms for that, some diaper care stations, different height, kiddo stuff and all that. Also some secure doors here. So and I keep saying secure doors. So check-in spot right here in the atrium. Take your kiddos to different spaces. But security such that if something's going down on campus, we can lock down the building, secure these magnetic doors, and you can't get in. And so, they're essentially like 2 little secured wings. We do have a little bit of, kind of looking at a small little age-appropriate playground for the little bitties, and then some other little additional things like outside. But that's going to be essentially right here where I'm pointing is right behind me. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so we would potentially have fellowship in that area in certain, once you're thinking Sunday school, right? If this turns into the children will have a space, where would we have Sunday school?
In the parish hall, yeah. Well, you mean,
Yeah, it's only built yet.
once this is done and this is ongoing?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay,
That's a
that's
good
what I was
question.
wondering, is this will be fully renovated and a place for the kids, and then we will
Correct.
potentially have outdoor Sunday school.
Yeah, and I do remember some conversations about, we wanted to get minimize the amount of time this was shut down,
Right, that makes
but also get the youth
Back up.
situation squared away, back up and running quicker. I think the adults are a little bit more adaptable. We've got the music building and some other sites that we're looking at using.
So probably if we're in the construction phase and that's taking a while, probably the Wednesday night Bible study, the adult Sunday school will be in the church while we're shut down. If we don't have an auxiliary space, that's what we gotta do.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you to Jay and Scott and Dave. See, we're in good hands, and when they say we want feedback, we're serious, so keep talking to us, keep funneling things to these guys, and stay up to date. Thank you guys very much for your time.